Shadow of the Road is an up-and-coming CRPG being published by Owlcat Games and being developed by Another Angle Games. It's a unique take on the convergence of history, magic, and technology, made doubly so unique because of it being historically situated both in Japan and in the year 1868, marking the turbulent end of the Edo period, and the conflict between tradition in Japan and modernization, and these elements of Shadow of the Road offer at least a great deal of potential for storytelling. And fortunately for us, it is currently available for testing in alpha, and I decided to play the alpha to see what it would be like. Now at the outset, let me say that of all the games announced by Owlcat that are set to be published by them, this one has held my interest the most, if only for its unique take on the setting and history of Japan, so I was eager to test it out. And I can confidently say that Shadow of the Road has a lot of potential, but there are a number of things that definitely need improvement here and there in order for it to reach this potential. So without further ado, let me begin with my impressions. As already stated, I think that the setting and the premise of the game is its greatest strength, and as the alpha is limited to only a small part of the game, one can only hope the core components of the game, i.e. history, mythology, and technology, are expanded upon greatly. I also like the few environments we could see, which to my untrained eye strike me as very Japanese. And I think the graphics are pretty good as well for such a game. The characters you play as are interesting, and you begin the game with two such persons. One Satoru, and another Akira, who are both Ronin, or masterless samurai, charged by the shogun with recruiting and protecting a boy with mysterious, supernatural powers. One thing I liked a fair bit about the presentation of the game was the sheer Japaneseness of it, and to this end there was a not too insignificant Japanese voiceover. Now I'm neither a weeb nor an expert on Japan, but I found the Japanese characters speaking Japanese to be both endearing and authentic, and I definitely would like to see this become the rule in the game rather than the exception. All in all, I think the presentation is what needs to be nailed down in order for the setting to be sufficiently convincing to the player and to really come to life. Now the combat in the game is turn-based, and it's okay in the current state. I would describe it as serviceable. You have skill trees that seem impactful enough, but not unnecessarily over the top, and I think it works for the most part. That said, I had a few issues with responsiveness, in that the characters didn't always do what I wanted them to do immediately, which also could be an issue on my end due to my lack of familiarity, but I do think responsiveness is something that needs to be worked on and improved on. The explanations for how the turn-based combat works were understandable enough, but I could easily see some individuals with less familiarity with these systems struggling to understand how it all works. And therefore, I think it would be useful to make the explanations more clear so everyone can immediately grasp what's going on. There is, for example, a strike to the back mechanic, which leads to more damage, but how you position yourself for this is not consistent in my experience playing with the game, which is again something that ought to be improved upon. But there were two things for me personally that I think definitely need to be improved upon the most and changed, and those things are saves in the game and dispositional RPG changes. In the case of saving, the game works off of a checkpoint system, which is not all that uncommon in games, but I personally think that a more conventional saving system would be better. There are a few things more annoying in games than failing at some major battle and then having to start much further back than the actual fight, and the potential for this kind of scenario in Shadow of the Road is great. Instead of a checkpoint save system, a normal autosave, conventional manual save, and above all quick save option would be best, and would best serve the player interests, as it is far less limiting than a checkpoint system is. Basically, they need to implement a system that is similar to the saves in Owlcat games. Now, Shadow of the Road also has a system of disposition and dispositional shifts that change based upon decisions in dialogue you make, mostly revolving around whether or not the two main characters you play, Satoru and Akira, shift more towards the traditional samurai role or more fully embrace their status as Ronin. And this is in and of itself not a problem, as I generally like games that allow for decisions to affect disposition. However, in Shadow of the Road, it's not entirely clear which responses elicit which dispositional shift, and I feel that this system should definitely be retained and ought to have an effect upon your interactions in the world, but you as a player should be made more aware of what decision causes what shift, so as to better know what role-playing choices you're making and how it affects the story. However, as the alpha was fairly short, it's difficult to come up with anything more extensive than my general impressions. I'm still looking forward to this game, and I hope that my feedback is helpful, and that other people's feedback will help make this game as polished and enjoyable as possible. Now, if you played the alpha as well, do let me know in the comments section, as I'm eager to hear your thoughts. And as always, thank you for tuning in, and if you like my content, and you like my takes, you can leave a like, comment, share, and subscribe. It's much appreciated, as it really helps out the channel, and I'll check you out next time. Take care.